if you pronounce it in Italian, it's Locorriere, and it
Yes.
means the courier, but it takes two hands to pronounce. And a lot of the times I'm playing guitar. So I've Americanized it. When I was a kid, it was pronounced every which way. I mean, in school, as soon as they paused, Mr. I'd get up because I knew it was me. And so sooner or later, when I had cause to have a last name, I asked by somebody in my family what it meant. And they said, it means the courier, the messenger. So I just kind of Americanized it into Locorriere. And people still can't say it, so you can call me Dennis.
It's almost the French pronunciation now.
It is. I didn't mean to continental it up like I did. I was just trying to get through life. I should have shortened it, but I'm kind of glad I didn't, because anybody who knows how to say it must really like me.
We've got it now. Dennis, thanks so much for your time today, and I really appreciate you being here with us. If it's all right with you, can we just take a little walk down memory lane and let the audience know how it all started for you? So I know a little bit about you, and Shane probably knows a whole lot more about you, but we'll let you kind of walk us through. How did you get together in the first place?
Well, you mean the band? Yeah. I grew up in a place called Union City, New Jersey, which is a bus ride across a bridge or through a tunnel to New York City. And I spent a lot of time there. But there was an area of town in Union City that they called the transfer station, because at one point, everybody used to meet there to take different buses, different coaches to other places in New Jersey and New York. After a while, all those little restaurants that were there to accommodate the travelers closed down, and all these places became bars, and they became places where bands could play. And so I used to just go into these places and sit in, play drums, play harmonica with anybody that was up on the bandstand. And one night I went in there, and George and Ray, the two guys that I, started the band with, they were there. They'd come up from Alabama and Mississippi, and they were gigging in this little town that I lived in. And I started playing with them. I think I was an oddity to them, and they were older than me and Southerners. And so they were a curio to me, but we merged. I sang the Beatles songs, Ray sang the country songs, George did the blues numbers. We seemed to have it together. And plus we were playing to people that didn't remember it the next day.
When did you formalize the band arrangement?
Oh God, I don't think we ever formalized it, Sandy. We were playing in these bars, and somebody came in and liked the band. And, every couple of nights, somebody would come in, have a few drinks and say, I think I could really make you guys something, and then we'd never see them again, or they'd pass out. And one night, some guy said, if we could record some things on you guys, and we had nothing yet. We were playing in the bar. So we went over during that day. We recorded, I think it was Mr. Tambourine Man and something George wrote, and a country song, Big in Vegas by Buck Owens and the Buckaroos. What things we were playing in the bars as to not be killed. We put them on tape, and that tape just went off. And whoever heard it. But the last person who heard it was someone who was the musical director on a film that Dustin Hoffman was in, called Who is Harry Kellerman, and why is he saying those terrible things about me? And it's a little known Dustin Hoffman film. He played a songwriter in it, a very paranoid character. It was about the inner workings of the music business, and the general public didn't even know. It was very psychedelic. They didn't know what the hell was going on with it. But we were in this film. And for me, the best thing about it was that Shel Silverstein, brilliant writer that I was a fan of anyway, he wrote the songs. And when they came in with the tape to our little rehearsal hall and said, here, put this cassette on, learn these two songs, but don't worry about the guy's voice. He can't sing. And they put the tape in, and it was Shel and that exquisitely raspy voice singing these two songs. And I freaked out. The other guys didn't really know who he was, because he was very urban kind of character, and they were very country guys. And when I found out we were going to be doing something and I was going to be working with Shel, I was in. So that was the beginning of it
Right.
For me. So while we were recording that movie, every day we would be there hanging around, because Dustin Hoffman wasn't really used to acting like someone in the music business, and he used to like to just be around us and pick up things we would say and everything. So they'd want us there at 6 or 7 in the morning every day. We just played in the bar till 3 a.m. And we'd hang out all day with Dustin while he shot his scenes. And then we'd go back in the play to the bar and say, here's a little song we recorded for a Dustin Hoffman movie. And these drunks would go, shut the hell up. You don't know Dustin Hoffman. So we led a dual life for a long time.
Wow. Dennis, Shel Silverstein, for people who haven't heard of him, wrote a lot for Johnny Cash.
He'd written for everybody. He wrote A Boy Named Sue for Johnny Cash. He wrote One's on the Way and a few other ones for Loretta Lynn. He wrote a few things that Chris Christopherson recorded. He wrote The Unicorn for the Irish Rovers, and people thought that was a 200-year-old folk song. Shel wrote that too. He wrote everything. And I was so pleased to be able to interpret his material, because the lyrics are so rich and so colorful that it's almost like acting. To sing something like Sylvia's Mother or The Ballad of Lucy Jordan, that's not a song. That's a story. I'm not playing saxophone here. I'm telling you a story. And it's all down to Shel's words. So he was brilliant.
He ended up writing all the songs for the Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show's self-titled debut album, didn't he? That was 1971.
Yes. Our first 2 albums and about half of our third album. And that was because, we were loving recording Shel's songs and hanging out with him. But he said one day, you guys have some nice things I hear you writing. Why don't you start recording your own songs so everybody doesn't think you're just a mouthpiece for me, which was pretty giving, because we'd just done 2 albums that he'd gotten royalties for, all the songs and all our first singles. But he was the guy that went, no, become writers. He was a good guy to work with. And
tell us the story. Strange guy, was he?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, well, it's strange in as much as that, you'd see Shel, he'd be around for a day, maybe a couple of weeks, in and out of the studio, and then he'd just disappear. And then you'd see him, or you could be at a party with him, and he might say, I'll be right back, I'm going to the toilet, and he would disappear. But weeks later, he'd roll into the studio and say, you want to hear a couple of songs? And we always wanted to hear a couple of songs. And he'd take a little chair, comfortable chair out in the studio and set up a microphone and get his guitar and sing about 35 songs. He was they used to drip. And every one of those songs were better than the last one. And I'm not exaggerating. Maybe I was a big fanboy, but I didn't exaggerate that. The guy was lyrically, he was just brilliant in what he would say.
Tell us the story behind cover of the Rolling Stone.
That was Shel again being generous. We were on the road. Sylvia's Mother had been a big hit. And we were on the road in America where we lived. We mostly, we'd done some European stuff. We did pretty well, but it was expensive for us to travel over there. We had 7 guys in a road crew. So we tried to concentrate on America. And even with a big hit like Sylvia's Mother, one hit wonder kind of thing, we needed something else. We needed some kind of kick in the butt. And Shel called us one day in a hotel room and said, look, I've been thinking, I wrote this song and it was cover Rolling Stone. And he said, why don't you write this down and play it tonight and see if people like it. And so we did. But I played one guitar, and we gathered around the microphone and we sang cover Rolling Stone, and people loved it because usually we were supporting. If you remember the song in depth, we were really taking the piss out of an awful lot of rock stars and how they lived, about having limousines. And we were supporting these people and going on stage and sort of making fun of them a little bit, in a kind way. And the audiences loved it. Loved our irreverence or our cheek or our courage. and it became a big hit, but they couldn't play it in the UK. They couldn't play it on the radio because Rolling Stone is a trademark. It's like just when the Kinks put out Lola and they said, just like Coca-Cola, they had to change that to Cherry Cola. BBC wouldn't play it.
All right.
So But there was a CBS, there was a phone number. I never did it, but there was a phone number that you could call clandestinely and hear cover Rolling Stone. And I thought that was great because it was like rock and roll porn. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, we're on a sex line. You know what I mean? You have to pay 75p to hear this. You know,
it did put you on the cover of Rolling Stone, didn't it?
Yes, and then we went bankrupt.
How come?
We did, because now we were getting bigger gigs and supporting bigger acts that were traveling further afield, and we couldn't afford it. Literally could not afford it. You know, we played with Alice Cooper in Miami, Florida one night, and he was on his way to Dallas, Texas the next day on his Learjet to sleep, and we were in a rent-a-car trying to drive 2,100 miles. And if we had to fly, we couldn't because we couldn't afford it. And we just had to stop and reassess. And bankruptcy is congressional relief. You know, you say to the government, look, I have a business, but I'm stalled out here. And what they did for us is they let us keep our guitars and said, okay, give us everything else, keep your guitars, good luck to you. And we had the gumption to stay together and roll on after that.
So how did that feel for you? I mean, it must have been really difficult on your massive rise up to just have to pull up stumps and go, we can't do this anymore, guys.
Yeah, you know, I think that's good for you. I think we never became like that academic money rolls in so fast that we're okay, that's it forever, boys. We never got that way because, again, we traveled internationally. It was expensive in a time when we didn't have computers. There was no FaceTime. There was nothing. You had to call home. Your phone bill was $6,000 when you got home.
I remember those days.
Family.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it just, I don't know. I think the band there was a spirit to it, and we wanted to kind of roll on with it after that. And we borrowed money and recorded our Bankrupt album, called it Bankrupt because we were trying to be funny and honest. And it had a couple of songs on it that did pretty well. One was The Millionaire, that people still like that. It's a fan. I think they like really the fact that we had an album called Bankrupt and the single was called The Millionaire. And also Only 16. Our Sam Cooke cover was on that. And that became a big hit in the States and other places and kind of rolled us back on the road. So Bankrupt's a favorite album of mine because of what it did for us. Not that it made us much richer, but it kind of opened the doors to a lot of things. You know?
Yeah. Why had you decided to do that cover of Sam Cooke's Only 16?
Well, I was always a Sam Cooke fan because when I was a kid, he used to be on the radio, and my mom also was a fan. My mom was 19 years old when I was born. So, you know, when I was 5, 6 years old, she was still a young girl. She had friends. She liked music. And she liked singers. And Sam Cooke, I remember one night, he was on the Ed Sullivan Show. That's where America saw the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and everything on Sunday night. And he was on there singing, and it was blowing me away. And my mother said, I know him. And I said, no, you don't. And she said, no, I do. Me and my friends met him when he and his brother used to sing in clubs. And he's a very nice guy. And I kind of, you know, walked away with that, wondering, you know, if I wanted it to be true, didn't want my mother to be cool at the same time.
Very mixed feelings.
I have no one to blame for anything. But it turned out that we went to, make a long story short, we went to an amusement park some months later. You know, I was a kid. It might have been 2 weeks, 2 days later. But we went to this amusement park. I went with my mom. She took me. She didn't say why we were going. But they used to have entertainment at this park. And we sat in these bleachers and the lights went down and Sam Cooke came out and in this green suit. And he was singing all these songs. And I must have been 11, I don't know, and blowing me away. And when it was all over, he just knelt down on the stage instead of leaving and started signing autographs because it was like an outdoory thing. And people came up to the stage. And my mom and I were pretty far in the back. And she said to me, she nudged me and she said, watch this. And she looked up and she put her arm up and she yelled, Sam, hey, Sam. And he stopped and he looked and he said, Ruth, it's great to see you again. And that was like all he said. And thank goodness that was all he said. Because I was, my mother was like beaming, and my mouth was hanging open. I don't know what else he could have said, to surprise me. I'm your father, I don't know what else he could have possibly thrown in there, but just, hey, Ruth, nice to see you. And so I'm really answering your question. This stays on my mind like a hamster, when they put stuff in their cheeks and they only swallow it when they need it. That's what stuff does in my head. And there used to be a Dr. Hook section of the show in the old days where the band would wander off the stage and I would sing a song or two by myself and talk to the audience. And one night I had Sam Cooke on the brain and I sang that song and people really liked it. And so I kind of did that for a while in my solo section. And when we went into the studio and borrowed that money after the bankruptcy, that was one of the songs that we kind of did. And, so it was organic. It kind of was organic for me. And the nice thing for me, because I love full circle things, is eventually there was a gold record that had my mom's name on it and Sam Cooke's name on it. And, and not in my name really, but Dr. Hook. And I like that when things come full circle like that. So I really answered your question.
You did.
Because there was a real answer.
Yeah.
Why did you do that song? I'll tell you why. When I was 10 years old, it started, I took it back.
I'm so glad I asked. What a lovely story.
you could be editing this. I have
no. That's definitely in. Don't you worry about that. Dennis, I just want Shane to come on now. Shane, you asked me to get Dr. Hook onto the show. You've been a long-time fan?
Yes, I have. But
where are you, Shane? Where do you live? Where are you right now? Sydney? Okay.
In Australia. Yeah.
Great. One of my favorite cities in the world.
It's pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I've loved your music for a long time. I'm not very good at history or anything, but I did know about Shel Silverstein. But what I would like to know is, I've seen some clips of you in concert. I haven't seen you live.
Right.
But was Ray Sawyer as cheeky in real life as he was on the stage with you? You two had such a chemistry, and you would sing your little lovely, beautiful love songs, and then next minute we'd have, Up on the Mountain, and Ray was just this cheeky fellow.
Yeah.
Was he really like that?
Well, we were both like that. I mean, when we were playing in those bars in the early days, like I said, I would sing I Started a Joke or Let It Be or Bee Gees and the Beatles, and Ray'd sing something by Hank Williams, you know what I mean? So that's who we were. And the good thing about Shel, just to add to that, is his material, kind of, because he wrote so many different kinds of songs. His material gave us an original way to express those same characters. Because before that, we would have to do dirty versions of Proud Mary to show how cheap we were. We were just playing covers, So no, Ray was a great guy. Ray was 13 years older than me. Ray left the band years before we stopped because he'd been on the road years before he'd even met me. He was like 30 when I met him, 33. And I was just turning 20. Yes. And by the time he was ready to get the hell out of here, I was just turning the age he was when I met him, and I was thinking, let's do this like he was, you know. So our timing didn't work out great at the end, but he was a really good guy. People thought we hated each other because we had this falling out. But if you really want to know, it was the attorneys that were behind the rock shooting at each other. Ray and I never had a cross word in our lives, but there was paperwork. Ray left the band. When you have a corporation, you don't just walk away whistling. There's business you got to do. And I'm not going to do it. And Ray's not going to do it. So you call in the attorneys because you have to. And the attorneys, call in the housekeepers, okay? Depending on how much they are for an hour is how dirty they'll think your house is, And so we got into a legal wrangle, and people to this day goes, "Oh, it's a shame, Dennis and Ray." Dennis and Ray were fine. We were fine. We knew exactly what we meant. We knew exactly what we meant to each other and what assets to each other. You know, we really did.
Dennis, and you ended up friendly after you parted ways.
Yeah, I hadn't spoken to him for a while, but you know, it's a hard thing when, you know, I see so many pictures of the band. It's me and Ray together, head on one mic. And it was great. It was great. And we, you know, we did radio together. We did TV. It was just me and Ray. We were like a two-headed monster. But, you know, after a while, it's hard to keep that going, especially like Ray. I could see his mind wanting to be somewhere else. And you know, and it's hard then to be going, you know, we were just in different mental spaces at the end, but we were friends, but we didn't get to speak a lot. You know, when he passed away, it was on New Year's Eve, and I was actually getting ill. I was ill for a little while, had to cancel a whole trip to Australia and New Zealand too, which pained me, but we can talk about that. But I was home not feeling so well on New Year's Eve, and Ray passed away, and Rolling Stone magazine contacted me and asked me for a quote. And I said something, you know, in my fever, said something, you know, Ray and I haven't seen each other for a long time, but I think we both know what we did together, that we did something important together, and I hope his family is fine. And just said something like that. And, you know, I got a lot of people going, right, is that all you're going to say? Well, what do you want me to do, a seance? I mean, no, I mean, there's nothing else I could do. And, you know, there's nothing else I could do. There's nothing else I could do. And I'm out now keeping the Dr. Hook thing going on the 50th anniversary tour and everything. And there's people who want to say, oh, sure, Ray passed away, and now Dennis put. No, I've always done this. I've been doing Dr. Hook as long as Ray's been doing Dr. Hook, or as long as he had been doing Dr. Hook. It's just a thing. It's a good body of work, and I hate to see it pissed away.
Yeah, it's a great body of work. Do you have a favorite amongst all those terrific songs?
They change per song, but my favorite type of song is down to Shel Silverstein again, and it's story songs. Like I've already said, the Ballad of Lucy Jordan, Sylvia, where there's a story, where you tell a story and it goes somewhere, and it's emotive, you know, rather than, Shel said it a long time ago. He said, you know, when you write a song, you don't want the first verse to say, I love you, and the second verse to say, I love you, and the chorus to say, I love you. He said, make the first verse say, I love you, and then in the second verse say, why you love her, and then the third verse say how you'll kill yourself if you leave, you know, but change. Give it a little more dynamic than the same. That's why I loved his material. But story songs with, we had a lot of radio hits like Sexy Eyes, and it was a big hit for us. But I never met a girl on a dance floor in my life. So it's not exactly autobiography.
I'm chatting with Ray Locorriere, hard name to say, from Dr. Hook. You are Dr. Hook now, aren't you? Now that partners in crime have disappeared.
I think if you have a headache, I probably gave it to you. I'm not a doctor. No.
Oh, you're the best type of doctor, Dennis. We'll stick with you. You've had a terrific. Well, you're enjoying a terrific solo career simultaneously as going out as Dr. Hook. 3 albums down, and your music that you're doing on your own, your solo work is just stunning. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, I started doing the solo work after the Dr. Hook farewell tour. I was around for a while in Nashville. I was writing songs. Some were getting recorded by other people. But I was just sitting around. And my friend Rod Smar, who was in Dr. Hook for the last 6 or 7 years of the band, he said to me, why don't we start recording some of your stuff? And he had a little studio down in the basement. And so we did. We started recording these songs, and they became albums. But you know, they're only independent albums. Dr. Hook is on EMI and on you know, CBS and Sony. I mean, there's a push when they want to sell a Dr. Hook album, they sell a Dr. Hook album. my albums were out on independent albums, and so to promote them, I had to promote them myself.
Yeah.
But once I decided, all these albums that I did before this Hook thing I'm doing, 3 solo albums, a couple of live albums, and I wrote a book of poetry and cartoons because I had all this time. And then once I said, my manager and I, we said, why did we do the 50th anniversary tour? And then that got to be like, ugh. And then there was no time to do anything else, including even make much note of the fact that I had 3 solo albums out. But now that this 50th anniversary thing is rolling to a close at the end of this year, I'm thinking about that. I have this book, I have these albums because I love those albums. I didn't do it as a hobby. I love those albums, you know, but anything you do that has a lot of promotion and money behind it's going to get more attention than
of course. Well, if we could just, I'd like to just point out a couple of tracks to my audience because they probably haven't heard them. The one I like out of the Dark album is a track called "The Right to Walk Away." Did you write that one?
Yeah, I wrote that with my friend Leroy Preston, and also John Lyons, Southside Johnny from Southside New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen's friend. Right. It was just a song. It's exactly what it says, that sometimes when you feel like you have nothing else left, you do have the right to just, you know, it's like I always say, you don't have, you don't have to be around certain people. You might not be able to change them, but you can change your proximity to them. That much you can do. And that's kind of what that song says. You know, if it's not good here, you can pick it up and roll on, you know, instead of just being rooted and wallowing in it.
Yeah,
sort of.
That's an important message. And still following the path where it's a story song too. I really like what you're saying about lyrically rich songs that the audience can get something out of and take away from. And The Right to Walk Away is certainly that.
Well, you know, it's not like I'm an ammonia-breathing alien. I'm going to say something no one's ever heard before. I think if I express my own feelings, hopefully there's a faction of people that'll say me too. Because I think that's what you want them to do. You want people to go, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Because, you know, everybody's not a dentist. Everybody's not a writer. If you are a writer and you can say something that a lot of people say, you know, I've been wondering how I'd say that, then you can borrow this. That's fine. It's not why I do it. You know, nobody's ever writing songs to save anybody's life, you know, but when I'm in the studio, I'm just hoping this sounds good. Later on, when people go, oh, it means so much to me, that's the perk of it, really.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. The other one I really like is from the album One of the Lucky Ones, and that's Misty Blue. That's obviously not a song that you wrote, but your rendition of it is just beautiful.
Thank you. It's just a song. Well, it's not just a song. It's one of my favorite songs ever, the one recorded by Dorothy Moore. And the fellow who wrote the song, Bob Montgomery in Nashville, he produced the Dorothy Moore version of that song. And I didn't know both those things at the same time. I knew she recorded it and I knew he wrote it, but I didn't know he produced her record. And when I sent him my recording, he got in touch with me and he said, man, I've had that song recorded 200 times and I produced some of them. And this is, you know, one of my favorite, if not my favorite version. And that's a lot to hear. You know what I mean? I like to hear, again, full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle. I do the song because I love it. And the writer comes back and goes, good job. I also produced a record, you know, and I thought, great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Your solo work's fabulous. Are we likely to see you back in this country?
Oh, yeah. You know, that's what I said a few minutes ago. When in 2019 or at the end of 2018, Adrian, you've spoken to Adrian, my manager, and I said, you know, we should do this 50th anniversary tour. And so it was scheduled to go everywhere. And, you know, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, and I only will because it didn't happen. And I was proud of it. And I'm proud that it would have happened. But things were selling out months and a year ahead of time. And I thought,
then COVID came.
Great. Well, it wasn't even that. At first, I got sick. I got a kidney thing. and I was down. I mean, I thought I was feeling like I had the flu. I did 4 gigs in Scandinavia that I don't even remember. And that's not even like me. I was just down. And I went to a doctor when I had a break, and they took a blood test, and my kidneys were about to fail. You know, everybody went, oh, it's because he lives like Keith Richards. It had nothing to do with that. Trust me.
You don't? Oh, how disappointing.
No. Yeah, please don't be disappointed. But no, I don't. I don't want to get into a whole thing, but it starts with the word prostate. Let's not talk about it. But I had to, you know, the good news wound up being, yeah, you're okay. Because it was a little touch and go for a while. They weren't sure if I was going to be here. And I didn't know that. I didn't feel like that. But I wasn't reading my charts. I thought, I got a band in the car in a cab with a meter running. I was just waiting to get the hell out of there.
Of course.
And then I had to. They said the good news is you're healthy, but you got to rest. The bad news is you're going to have to cancel all these shows. And we had to cancel like 70 shows around the world. And I'm still not over that. Because I wanted that. And Australia obviously was part of it, and New Zealand was part of it. And so, you know, and then I got on my feet, and COVID knocked everything down. And
okay, well, now that COVID's kind of ending, and you're feeling fine again.
Yeah, we're looking for a way to do it. What we're trying to do now is, you know, we had a whole wonderful tour with brochures and t-shirts and dates on it. Now we're piecing things together as we can, as we go, okay, you won't die if you go there.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah. Dennis, Zoom is going to throw us off in 3.5 minutes. I just want to give Shane the last opportunity. Shane, have you got another quick question for Dennis, or anything you'd like to leave us with?
Oh,
it's all on you, Shane. It's all on you. It
is all on me. Jungle to the Zoo.
Yes.
What is all that about? I love it.
Yeah, but you know what it means. You know what it means. If you're a big shot, they'll put you down. Yeah, they'll put you down. They'll put you down. Yeah, it's one step from the jungle to the zoo, no matter who you are. Yeah,
it's a great
another Shel Silverstein. You can't beat it. You know, he says something you want to say, and he says it so brilliantly that, you know, it should be a t-shirt, you know. So
awesome.
Hey, say hello to everybody in Australia in Sydney for me, will you?
I will indeed.
Thanks.
Shane, thanks.
You too. Thanks.
Shane, thanks so much for joining us and for asking us to get Dennis onto the program. What a joy to talk to you, Dennis. Dr.
Thank you.
We certainly hope to see you fit well and healthy in this country and back on tour right around the world. Well, in fact, you are finishing up your 50-year anniversary tour as we speak, aren't you?
Yeah, we have some dates in Scandinavia. We have some dates here in the UK. And I think it goes just into January. And I'm just going to sit, you know, I said to Adrian, because we've been working hard and we were really waiting to work hard. You know what became the chore? Running in place, going, okay, can we do those gigs now? We can, great. Book them. No. It's all falling apart again. Yeah. I'm just running in place, waiting for somebody to go, sing, go. And that wears you out more than going, you know, waiting to go. So that became my job for the last 2 or 3 years, was just being patient. And if anybody knows me, forget it. If you were paying me to be patient, I would be very broke.
You and me both, Dennis.
We'll wait for you.
We will wait, won't we, Shane? They'll be back. They love Australia.
I just turned 73. Them's big words, lady. You're going to be waiting for me. That good. It gives me an excuse to stay fit.
Yeah. Thanks a million for joining us, Dennis. Really great to meet you. An absolute
Thank
pleasure.
You.
Look forward to catching up again. Thanks for all this fabulous music. Bye now.
You. Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Okay. I'll send it to you when it's all done, so you can send it out to your fans. A lovely interview, and love to catch up in person. Thanks so much. Really great. Thank Adrian for me.
Bye. I will.
Bye, Shane.
Bye. Thank you, Sandy.